What's up, y'all? Welcome to How to Mondays on Gratified Grad, where it's my goal to help you graduate with gratification. Today's video is the part two, or the second part to the interview series, mini series that I am doing. So if you haven't seen that video, you can check out the link. The link is at the top of the screen, and you can view that one and then come back to this one. But either way, the information is independent of each other. So in today's video, we're going to talk about what can you gain, what professional skills and professional developments can you gain as the student being in this position. So the first thing that you can gain is taking note of what are you evaluating them on. So typically after you conduct an interview, you'll receive some type of feedback form where they ask you to evaluate the candidate's qualities in certain areas. Depending on what the job is, you may be interested in applying for that job or a similar type job in the future. So it would make sense for you to understand how the interviewer is looking at the interviewee, because in a couple of months or whenever you decide that you're going to go apply for that position, you are going to be on the other side of the table. And so having an understanding of some of the things now, disclaimer here, all institutions and people creating these feedback forms are different. And so that's why it's really important to know what job you're applying for and making sure that you are in fact addressing the requirements that are found in that job's description. But all still, there are some things that are across the board found and required, or not required, but very useful in multiple jobs settings. So just paying attention to what you have been asked to evaluate someone else for will be helpful for you, because you can know at least to hit those points whenever you're on the other side and being interviewed. The second thing for professional development that you can take from being an interviewer is you get to see how they format their documents, how they write up the information, how they structure documents. And that can be really helpful if you've never applied to any jobs, or maybe you haven't had the opportunity to sit down and talk to a mentor and ask them for some of their feedback on how you should write a cover letter. I know when I wrote my first cover letter, I just Googled cover letters to see like very vague examples. The advantage here is if you're applying for a similar position to one that you're interviewing for, then you have the opportunity to see, how do people lay out their cover letters in this field? How do people format their resumes or their CVs in this field? Take note of those things. And three, think about the things that you paid attention to as the interviewer. And so that could be anything from maybe the interviewee dressed a certain way, and you thought, oh, I really appreciate the professionalism that they have shown here. Or maybe they answered questions with a certain style, such as repeating back the question before they give their actual answer to the question. There are a number of tactics that people use, and there's so many different resources on just different interview tactics that exist. One of the easiest and quickest ways to gain this information is to simply observe and take note of how people respond to you as the interviewer. And so then you can take those same aspects or skills that you notice and implement them when you're going through your interview process. Now, on the flip side, there are things that you may have noticed that you did not like. I find it interesting that in this Zoom world, there are things such as, what type of background does the person have? Do they have a filter up, or do they just have their natural room in the background? Taking note of those types of things. How was their internet connection? Were you able to understand and hear them? Did they have a clear microphone? So just thinking about those things that you notice and whether or not you feel like it contributed to or it hindered their interview process is really important, once again, for you to jot down and take note of for your own professional development when you go into being the interviewee on the other side of the table. So just to recap on the 3 things that you can do. 1, take note of the things that you were asked to evaluate the candidate on. 2, see how they formatted their documentation. And 3, think about the things that you thought were really good about their interview and things that you thought weren't so good, so that you can take that information and implement it for yourself. Hopefully, this is another set of tools that you can add to your toolbox so that you may graduate with gratification. See ya.